movies for black girl nerds.
Enrico, this was such a beautiful film, and I enjoyed this so much. And it was so sweet and tender with a lot of wonderful messages. So thank you in advance for that. When you get the call from Disney to say, "Hey, we want to do this film," it's based in Italy. It's called Luca. How do you celebrate that? Being a part, finding out that you're a part of this big, huge feature film for such a big company like Disney.
Yeah, it's actually a very slow process. And so that kind of like big moment, to be honest, is still happening because it's happening actually this week because I see a big billboard yesterday. And you have this kind of like, oh my God, this is kind of big. But because you pitch an idea and then the idea, okay, yeah, you're going to the next step. You're going to get a writer, you're going to start writing it. So this was my idea. We, at Pixar, we kind of proposed it to our leads and they kind of like, oh, this one's good, go for it, start developing it. And then you have a lot of these baby steps of like slowly, okay, you're going to get a writer, then you're going to start storyboarding it. Then, once you have a script, you storyboard it. Then the story is not good enough yet, you got to make it better. And for a while, am I going to make it through this? Some of these movies I like to call them bucking broncos. And so it's a real step by step. And then you start production and then you feel, okay, this is real. And then you start making it, and then a pandemic hits. We pretty much produced it all from home. And then, so it becomes real slowly. And so I would characterize that as still something that's still happening, that it kind of blows me away, that it's I still feel like a little underdog. So it's sometimes strange to see me right by the side of a movie that now is being PR'd all over the place.
It's great. And Bob, what do they call it in boxing? A war of attrition, where it's like a lot of little short victories and big battles, and then they all kind of amount to something.
Yeah, and also because of the length of it, right? It takes us around 4 to 5 years. So like even my family, right? They're very happy for me once we got to the ending of it, right? But they are with you in and out through many, many months and many summers, like we were joking, like this summer I'm camping with family because they did a lot of camping by themselves in the last few years.
You know what? Let me ask you this. I'm very intrigued by creative people, and I think of my own world and trying to communicate to people what we do who don't work inside that inside our industries. And the way you describe it is it's a long process, and maybe I'll get to go camping this summer. Oh no, we're going to heat up on production. We need you here at work. When do you think your family had a real understanding of what you do and what you meant to this film and getting it to completion? Do you feel like they understand the process, or you have to walk it through constantly?
By now, I was joking that I think my wife has an associate degree in animated movies production, maybe a PhD. She was, psychologist and brainstormer and all sorts of things, and huge, probably kept me sane. But I do think that this is one of the silver linings of the pandemic. They were forced to hear me because they're outside my door, right? So this strange work from home world that is difficult, I actually had silver linings. I saw my daughter much more. I would have seen very little of her. She's 13, so they're wonderful years. And they heard me and got a sense. I remember still the first weeks, you're like, wow, you're working really hard there for a long time. You're talking a lot. So they had a whole new light, a new vantage point to see me. And I think that probably was interesting to them. It seemed to be. And again, but also in the difficulty of it, right? Of it, because you're not there as much. But yeah, when I try to explain it, well, it's like 3,000 decisions a day, and the difficulty of it and the stamina of it. Like some of the things is like you have to be creative and make a lot of choices and pretty consistently. And then you have crises and then you feel down and you have to get back up. Okay, this is not good enough. Let's redo it. So I feel if I had one thing that I really pride myself in having had is stamina, because it's so long. You can't let it, there's going to be tough days. There's going to be challenges, but you grow through it. And I love that the movie even speaks to this a bit, right? It's about putting yourself out there, probably falling, getting back up, and who are the people around you that see you and accept you for all you are. Friendship being such a wonderful way that we can support each other.
Mm-hmm. I'm glad you said that. When I was speaking to the young lady Emma who portrays Juliana, it made me think of when your chosen family, like your friends and people you go to college with, sometimes they can see the potential of things in you before you can see it themselves. There are the other themes of friendship, but her in particular, she was always so excited and so giving and so willing to help them along. Is it fair to say that is also one of the central themes outside of the friendship and the acceptance and all of the other things this trio of friends undergo as we move along their story?
Yeah, very much so, because that sense of like, I'm sorry, am I too much? For example, that she has, and they're like, no, not for me. I love that is friendship. That is what friends do, right? Or the idea that's the Silencio Bruno idea. It really is like, I know you have a lot of things in your head that tell you you're not good or you can't. You can. And you're right. That is where I go to like, yeah, who are those people that know before even we do that we can do it, that believe in us? I do love that about Alberto and Giulia, but she's especially wonderful in this intensity and the way they geek out, right? That it was a key thing to convey in an infectious, imaginative, fantastical way, love for learning, which is not an easy thing to do. How are you, we had moments where some people were like, how are you going to make school interesting, right? You could look at it that way. And so I knew that Luca's imagination and Giulia were the key for it, and the sense that there is someone that you are gonna that enables you even more than you can enable yourself. Because Luca is such an insecure character; he's a little bit more. He does have these voices. We all have them, and again, wonderfully meta. Because when you make these movies, you have a lot of insecurities about making it.
It really is opening your heart to the world, because all these stories are rooted in things that are very, very personal. So it takes a great amount of bravery just as a filmmaker to even invite the audience into to see these things. And sometimes people don't make that connection, I think, to filmmakers. Lastly, before we wrap up, Disney is legendary with its attention to detail and research and things that go into making a film prevalent. During this pandemic time, how did that help or hurt you? Were all your research done, taking trips to Italy and all of that part of the planning of the film change, or were you able to accomplish all that before we were locked down?
We were lucky to accomplish a good part of it before. We did an early trip with the writer, the production designer, and then interestingly, we were so busy we were supposed to make a second trip with the people who are going to light it, who are going to give you the right, beautiful sun. So there was the people who are going to design the set. So it was so important for really the makers of the images to go. And we were so busy. It wasn't pandemic yet, but we had to rewrite the story so that we couldn't go, and we sent them, and we were very jealous, to be honest. There was one summer I was like, oh, I wish I could go dive in the sea that I grew up in. But so that was lucky. And then in the last year and a half, making the movie, it was this big limitation we ended up. But to be honest, and again, it threw us another wrench. It's kind of like, can you do this? We didn't know if we could do it. We didn't know if we could do the same movie. Productivity was a little bit impacted, right? There's parents with kids all around them that can't work as much. So it was another gauntlet to go through, but because we went through it together, we had this wonderful camaraderie. So the Luca crew, we just had a screening for them a couple of days ago. It was such a love fest and such a wonderful time to show them the movie, thank them. The connection we made making the movie brought some light to us in these kind of dark times. We were joking. There was that time where the fires were going on. The sky was red. We felt like zombies were going to be the next day attacking. So we felt we went through something. And the purpose and going to Puerto Rosso every day gave us a lot of light. So we kept on feeling like, oh, now I hope we can give some of that light and joy that this gave us to the world.
Absolutely, like a rose out of the concrete. Thank you so much for your beautiful work and your time today. Thank you for speaking with me, and I hope everyone enjoys it as much as I did.
Oh, thank you. It was a pleasure. Thanks, Jeandra.
Thank you. I'm Jeandra LeBeauf from Black Girl Nerds. It's a pleasure to meet you.
It's nice to meet you too.
Thank you so much. I like your background and your cool toys back there.
Thank you.
This is such a beautiful movie, and I immediately think of how sometimes your chosen family can see things in you that your immediate family doesn't. They can see beyond your potential, your ability to achieve. And I feel like that happens between Giulia and Luca. Why do you think that is, that the chosen family can see it sometimes, even before ourselves?
That's so interesting. I think maybe, I mean, I've never thought about that before. Thank you for bringing that up. That's such a cool point about the movie. I never thought about that. Well, I guess your family, it really, like your immediate family, what they care about most really is like your well-being and your safety and making sure that you're just a happy person. And I guess maybe Luca's family kind of just focused on that instead of really what he wanted to do, even though they were keeping him safe, which is still a very important thing to do. And I guess Massimo and Giulia and his newfound family with Alberto and that big friend group, I guess they just saw him to his potential of this really just cool kid who wants to explore the world. And I think it's very important to have friends like that who can bring you out of your comfort zones.
That's awesome. How did you, this is when you land a role in a Pixar film, it's a huge deal. It's a secret deal. You probably can't tell anyone at first, yes. But once the role becomes yours, it's very exciting. How did you celebrate this accomplishment?
Well, in the spring of 2020, I had a surprise Zoom call with the director and producer, and they told me I got the part. So that was the best day ever. I was like screaming into my pillow for the next like hour. It was just so exciting. I was crying. Oh my God, it was the best day of my life. And the people that I told immediately would be my mom and my dad and my brother and my grandma, who all live with me. But I couldn't tell my friends yet, which was definitely a hard secret to keep. Like I didn't tell them until like a day or two before like the world knew, because I feel like it'd be kind of weird if like my closest friends knew just when everybody else knew. So I kind of wanted to tell them just a little bit before. And the other person that I told was the dialogue coach that worked with me for hours on every audition for Giulia. And I think that she was definitely a very important part of that journey. So I told her.
Mm-hmm. The story, in addition to its beautiful themes, it's just steeped with Italian culture, and we get some hints of food, and everything looks great. How immersed did you put yourself into just the culture of Italy as you prepared to shape Giulia and who she is and how you wanted to portray her?
Well, I definitely learned a lot more about the Italian culture through this journey, through this experience. When I got the part, I went to my local Italian restaurant and I tried like saying what I knew in Italian, trying to order in Italian. So that was really fun. And there I met an Italian waiter who I got their phone number. And then later we had some Zoom calls where he was teaching me a little bit of like the Italian basics, like how you say your name and your age and just like some of the basics, like the weather and stuff. And so I got to learn a little bit more about the Italian language and the melody. It's so beautiful. And he introduced me to an Italian language teacher. And so I worked with her too. And so I definitely ate a lot of Italian food. So I got to learn a little bit about the language and the food and just be a little more immersed in the culture.
So can we drop you off right now and say Rome and like, take us on a tour? Could you navigate yourself pretty good and you feel that feeling confident in your Italian a little bit?
I don't know if I could like go to Italy and like only speak Italian. I definitely could not do that. But I guess some words like I could maybe try ordering food and stuff and asking very simple questions. but I definitely not fluent.
I trust you. I think we could get around. I think we do pretty good.
I would love to go.
Giulia is so warm and beautiful in this friend group, in that she's seeing beyond who they are as sea monsters without even knowing that. She's encouraging and helpful and friendly and inclusive, and she has all these wonderful qualities about her. But they're within the friend group, that can be threatening when you're the new friend coming into the friend group. Is that a fair assessment of who you think she is? And what do you think is the most value she brings to this wonderful trio of friends?
Yeah, I definitely agree with everything you said. I mean, she definitely thinks of them even before she knows that they're sea monsters. She just sees them as the incredible people that they really are. And I think that's a very important thing that we should all take away from that movie, is accept people for who they are. And I think that's just a very, very important message. And I really love that she's such a strong female lead. I think that we definitely need to see more representation of such strong females. And I'm very happy that I got to be a part of her and I got to voice such an incredible female lead. And I think that it's a very important story that the world needs to see.
She truly is fearless, whether it's participate, not only fearless in general, in many senses, in that there's a race and there's many opportunities for her to do it. She doesn't win, but she keeps going. She doesn't let anyone discourage her, and she keeps going and she keeps going, and like the Energizer Bunny. Is that the most critical quality you think a person can have to achieve a goal, that resilience?
Definitely. I think it's very important, really, in every aspect of everybody's life. I think we can all take something away from her character, which is like, be fearless, go on those adventures, make new friends, learn new things, and have new experiences. I think that's something that will make people just happier in general, understand more cultures too. And I think that also kind of relates to me and my acting journey, because it's like, for her, she hasn't won the race in a very long time. She like never wins the race. And then for me, I guess that would be like when I don't get a part, it's kind of like that same thing. And so, but she keeps pushing and pushing and trying just like me. And so I think that's a very important thing that everybody from all ages, all careers, just everybody can take away and put that into their own life.
For sure. I mean, we all could use a little resilience, because the road is never evenly paved, and we all have to keep going. Lastly, the film itself is just so vibrant. It's so beautiful. The colors, underwater, above ground, them riding the Vespas, all the fun things that happen in the film. When you finally got to see some of it, how did you react the first time you saw yourself as Giulia on the screen?
It was the coolest thing. It was so awesome. I mean, it felt the same as like when they told me I got the part, like that excitement, that excitement was just like boiling up in me. And it was just so fun to see her on the big screen, because especially, I love the way that we're introduced to her, because she's standing up for Luca and Alberto from a bully. And I think that really speaks to her want for justice and everything. That's kind of like her character. I think it's really cool how we're introduced to her. And I couldn't wipe the smile off my face for days after I watched that movie.
I think that I wouldn't mind seeing myself immortalized as a cartoon. That's pretty cool.
That would be fun. I was literally thinking like, I want to be a cartoon character.
Yeah. And you get to live forever.
Yeah.
People get to enjoy it forever.
Yeah.
Well, I thank you, young lady, for your time. This is such a beautiful film, and so many wonderful messages that even we adults can relate to, about resilience and
Definitely.
acceptance and inclusivity. And it's very, very beautiful. I thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. You brought such incredible points that I had like never even thought about before. So thank you.
Oh, the pleasure is mine. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you so much for your time, Jim. This is such a beautiful, beautiful film.
Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. As I watched this film, I thought of my own child who's going to be going to college soon in September, and letting them branch out and leave the nest and do their own things. And Luca wants to have his own thoughts. He's quite a bit younger than she is, but he wants to branch out. And as parents, we're fearful because we know what's out there.
Yep.
When you look at Lorenzo and his wanting us to keep Luca safe, how did you relate that to your own life, whether as a child or as a parent or just influencing younger people in your life?
Yeah, it's a great question, because there is, I've been doing these interviews and I've been kind of bringing up the point that you just made, which is there is this, as a parent, there is this point where you have to let your kid go off and make these mistakes. There's certain, Maya's character is just trying to avoid, going out of the sea. So that's where danger exists. But in the end, well, I don't want to give away the ending, but like in the end, we all parents have to let their kids go out there. And unfortunately, as parents, we know the chaos, we know the consequences and the heartbreak, but there is a letting go that is very bittersweet, right? It's like my oldest is applying to colleges, and it's making me sad because it's that's just one foot out the door, right? And it's also, it's not just them being gone, it's just knowing that there's different stages of life that are brutal. Like, I don't know about you, I don't want to go back.
Me neither.
I'm not a huge fan of even myself. You know what I mean? It's like I wasn't a monster, but I was an idiot. You know what I mean? And so the knowledge, you wish you could just give this knowledge to your children, but they gotta find it themselves. And that's, that's a key point that Luca's parents kind of grapple with.
For sure. I mean, they're on a journey too. And sometimes those journeys with your kids, like Luca, is them doing the exact opposite, which you told them to do. And you still have to live with it.
Yeah, I mean, it's insane. I mean, I have 5 kids, and they are all, it seems logical. They're all very different. But there's part of me that's like, almost annoys the fact that they're so different. It's like, really, there's no overlap, right? Like, all right, so she had these clothes, but you hate these clothes. Like, even though they fit you, it's there's someone laughing up there because, I remember I brought my son to a Jets game, and I was very excited. And we're on the side of the field, and we went up to the buffet and all that stuff. And then he, when he got home, I told my wife, he's like, don't make me do that again. Like it was a form of torture to him. And it's like you know what I mean? Like, to the little me, it would have been perfect, but that's him. You know what I mean? So he was just sucking it up for me when I thought I was doing something great for him. So.
I totally relate. I can totally relate. I think I'm pretty cool, and my kid's like, no, I have no interest. As we journey with Luca and his trio of friends, it was intriguing to me. And I thought about the times where sometimes your chosen family sees things in you that your immediate family doesn't. And his friend group there, although they're kind of young and misinformed, they're like, yeah, Luca, do whatever you want. You can do it. You can come with us on this Vespa. We can ride down this really steep hill. It's okay. You're going to be great. While your parents are like, you're going to get jacked up if you fall down and hurt yourself. Do you think of times when, say, your friend groups or even this chosen career where they were like, wow, you're really good, and your family's like, I don't know, this is not maybe a steady career choice for you. You might want to work for the county or something like that.
No, well, I was definitely raised to seek a level of security, which the entertainment industry does not provide. And no one I grew up in a small town in Indiana. I mean, the closest thing to the entertainment industry was a marching band, So there was definitely, and I think because my parents, there was like the Depression, and my father was the first one to go to college. It was kind of like, it took us 100 years to get to the middle class. Don't mess this up. So pursuing the entertainment industry which is, by the way, a much more of a middle class job than it used to be, but it was very much, uh, a real dreamer. Like, I might as well have announced that I wanted to be an astronaut. It was just really unrealistic. But and I love that Silencio Bruno in the movie, because there is something about silencing that inner critic that we all have to do, and even going for things. And that's what I always love about, like, I'm sure your story, you're doing something you love, and there was a time when people were like, you're crazy.
Well,
You know what I mean? And whether they were friends or loved ones. And the great irony is eventually they come around and they're like, oh, that's so cool, you get to do that. And you're like, you were saying I was crazy a week ago.
Exactly. It's like the Thanksgiving dinner. Everyone loves the dinner, but they don't see all the prep and the chopping that goes into the dinner to just even get it on the table. And it's an ongoing thing and that's for sure. So let me, so with a role like this is super, it's huge. Disney, Pixar, a juggernaut in the industry. How do you celebrate something like this, likening it to the, oh, you're crazy, and then, oh my God, my people, Jim is in this Disney movie, becomes a whole nother different conversation.
Yeah, I mean, it's, I was, of course, during the pandemic, I was with, my family. I mean, I'm in Vancouver now, but, and it's like, Pixar is just, their hit record is insane, right? There's a certain quality control that they're implementing that should be applied to every American business. But so I was super excited because I knew that there was going to be a quality product at the end that I would most likely really enjoy, and I do. But there was also my kids, they were very excited. Like, kids, I have 8 to 16, they know that Pixar is definitely good. You know what I mean? It's, if I could have been a Marvel character, that would have outdone it. But, the fact that I was in a Pixar movie is pretty huge. And, as a parent, the impressing your kids is what it's all about.
No kidding, because it's very challenging to impress them with anything. And lastly, so with this and your family knowing, how did you guys celebrate? It's kind of difficult. You can't really say anything because it's non-disclosures and all those things. But so how do you celebrate a win like this when you can't tell anybody?
Well, I would also say that I am pretty superstitious in that I've also had amazing opportunities that just disappeared. So I voiced, a movie, did a voiceover of a movie. It wasn't Pixar, it wasn't Disney. And I went in for like 10 sessions, and then they just replaced me with someone else. And so it's like, you also, like, maybe it's just superstition. Like, if you're bragging, the devil's watching, and it's like, but so like the celebration thing is, there was nothing really formal about it. I mean, it would have been great. I'm working up here in Canada. It would be great that to go to a premiere with my family, but celebrating it's also, for me, it's kind of like the quiet thing. Some of it is like not wanting to jinx it, but also it's just a small joy. It's like, it can't be too high or too low. So you have to be like, okay, this is good. Because I know that life is gonna kick me in the butt in an hour. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Level is good because level is hard to come by these days.
Yeah.
I thank you so much for your time, Jim. You are just lovely. This is a
thanks.
wonderful film. It's beautiful and the messaging and something that everyone can take from. I appreciate your time so much.
Thanks so much. Appreciate it.
Better shake your booties for black girl nerves. Better shake your booties for black girl nerves.